My name is Tanner Copeland.
My name is Ethan Finck.
My name is Zebulon Turner. Many of our wildland firefighters working in the Department of Natural Resources or with various agencies as part of the interagency burn team come from out of state or are not familiar with our plant communities here in the Southeast. The purpose of our Natural Resource Recreation Project was to address this issue. Our objectives were to create a pamphlet that provides easy and basic insight into wildland firefighters working prescribed fires, either the fire itself or preferably during the pre-burn assessment.
We wanted to provide something that allows wildland firefighters to identify the plant communities around them to better understand potential fire behavior in that area. This will allow more precise allocation of resources and make fires safer and more efficient. Our guide contains 15 common species that are either important contributors to fire behavior alterations or are of importance to many agencies for control. As our main objective was to aid in safety, we organized our pamphlet by fire intensity and burning. We also tried to create a template that can be scaled down somewhat to make it more convenient for wildland firefighters to carry with them in the field as with their IRPG.
To complete our project, we first had to talk to our stakeholders, Mr. Kip Hall and Dr. Vanessa Lane, to get an idea of what our finished project should be. We then had to create a proposal explaining our goals and a rough idea of the finished project. After these two things, we had to communicate with our stakeholders and identify 15 species of concern that would best suit our pamphlet. This was followed by an examination of scientific literature and discussion with more experienced prescribed fire practitioners to decide how a plant behaves when burned. Finally, we compiled all of this information into a Microsoft Word document using PowerPoint and Excel to create the template.
Again, a major portion of our project was stakeholder communication, not only to get feedback and go-aheads as with the proposal, but also to learn from their experiences with fire and how various plants respond to being burned. A lot of our decisions on how we listed our species within the pamphlet itself were based on anecdotal information. While it will be listed in the issues encountered slide, being able to talk with our stakeholders was often a problem due to trying to balance various jobs, running to classes, and homework.
The pamphlet used for our project was created mostly in Microsoft PowerPoint. The soil moisture and flammability charts were created in Excel with much headache, and it was these scales that were the most influenced by the information our stakeholders provided. We then had to select 15 different species of importance and enter their information individually. The entire thing was then consolidated into a Word document to be submitted. There were several problems encountered with working with Microsoft. One was proper image scaling, especially in PowerPoint, and another was creating the scales in Excel. This took me nearly 3 hours of almost complete coding, since the sliding scales in Excel are not easily imported and require lots of finagling and critiquing to get them to be easily workable.
Again, our template is arranged by the propensity of the plant to cause blow up or an abrupt increase in fire intensity or severity. As seen in this slide, the top heading is orange. This designation was chosen for the heading since longleaf does not necessarily cause a large increase in fire behavior, though fire behavior can pick up in it. In the top left, we have an identification photograph. Next to that, we have a brief description of the physical characteristics of this plant. Here, it's stated such things as a soil the plant prefers and where it can be found, how to identify it, and other things. Immediately below the identification characteristics are two scales indicating how the plant will burn and the soil type, xeric to mesic, where the plant is most often found. Next to the scales, we included a brief description of the average fire behavior expected in that plant community, again with the information from our stakeholders. At the bottom of this slide, we have two photographs of the most similar looking species. Some species that were included in the pamphlet are gallberry, saw palmetto, Kogan grass, smilax, and poison sumac, just to name a few. We decided to include these species due to potential impact they have on fire behavior as well as firefighter safety. Gallberry and saw palmetto are both waxy species that are the main species of the southern rough. They burn very intensely and can be a leading contributor to blow up, leading to crown scorch. Kogan grass was included to highlight the very drastic impact this invasive exotic can have on rate of spread as well as intensity, creating a potentially dangerous situation for wildland firefighters. Smilax was included because it can act as a ladder fuel, depending on the species of smilax present, potentially causing a crown fire or torching. Poison sumac is a species that is discussed less in relation to prescribed fire and wildland firefighting. This species poses a serious health risk to firefighters as the smoke can potentially cause a severe reaction if inhaled. These are just some of the species from our pamphlet. There are also species included that affect fire behavior by either drastically decreasing fire intensity or barely burning at all, such as live oak. We feel this pamphlet will help to keep firefighters and practitioners safe, as well as help them select the most appropriate firing technique for the conditions they're faced with.
We had a few issues that we encountered along the creation of this pamphlet. The majority of them had to do with time. Due to our stakeholders both being professors, we often had trouble getting time to talk with them. We came to their offices several times over the semester, and they would be either in classes or out on field trips. Another issue we had was finding pertinent literature regarding this type of project. There were generic literature describing southern roughs and the like, but limited specific scientific literature. A third issue was creating time to complete this project while balancing various jobs, full class schedules, and other responsibilities. Finally, as part of our original project, we were supposed to record Mr. Hall explaining the characteristics of each of our plants. However, again with time constraints, as well as the trouble of getting a suitable camera, we were not able to complete this part of our project. Even so, had we tried to complete this part, we would have well exceeded our time requirements for our project.
The best solution we found to getting time to talk to our stakeholders was to walk back to their offices after class with them. Our time was often limited, but we just had to have questions ready for them from the day before. Our solution to the limited information was to use literature provided from previous classes. One example would be the native trees of the Southeast from our dendrology class, which is also used as a resource for firefighters to find more information on native plants. Another would be various handouts from our fire ecology class that describe different species and how they affect or are affected by fire as well, since some species can suppress fire heavily, or other species influence it, causing stand replacement regimes or understory fire regime plants. Additional information about these species was collected from the USDA Fire Effects Information Systems, FEIS, since we all know that government agencies love their acronyms. This source gives information about fire reciprocation as well as soil types where these plants can be found. Finally, our solution to time was merely time management. Again, taking advantage of the time we could talk to our stakeholders in several late nights.
There are several steps ahead for our pamphlet now. First, we'll have to submit it for a grade, and then, if it is satisfactory, it will be passed on to the interagency burn team. From there, it will hopefully be printed and distributed to wildland firefighters across the state of Georgia.
Though this pamphlet will be completed, there are several suggestions we would like to offer. First, we would like to note that the number of species should be increased to offer wildland firefighters a more comprehensive list of the plants that make up our southeastern woodlands. We merely went with the first 15 species that were discussed with our stakeholders. Secondly, we would recommend the sizing the template to make sure it works on a format that will be easily carried by wildland firefighters, such as their IRPG. Due to the limitations of this project, we did not actually print this off, as all printing responsibilities would be given to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, as stated in our proposal. Third, we would recommend that future students do get with Mr. Hall and get a camera and actually record him describing the characteristics of all the plants, starting with the 15 we have originally included in our pamphlet. Finally, we would encourage that our pamphlet be modified as input from wildland firefighters using it becomes available. Theory works only at the table, and to make this pamphlet the most effective it could be, we would like it to be subject to all the input from firefighters using it in the field. Thank you.